my computer. So welcome everyone to another Education USA online session. Just a short reminder about what is Education USA. So this is your official source of information about study possibilities at accredited US universities and colleges. In all three Baltic countries, you can find certified Education USA advisors. Today, we are three of them, me, Renata from Lithuania, Lelde from Latvia, and Ep from Estonia. We will post our email addresses in the chat box shortly. You are welcome to contact us or our colleagues with individual questions or requests. And today we will be talking about one special US higher education institutions type, liberal arts colleges. So what is a liberal arts college? In which ways liberal arts colleges differ from larger public universities or private universities or colleges? What is special about the curriculum of liberal arts colleges? What is a liberal arts degree? What can you do with it? What are popular liberal arts majors? So many questions, and our guest speakers from Maryville College in Tennessee and Center College in Kentucky kindly agreed to help us answer all these questions and many more. So please, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Renata. That was a very welcoming introduction, and hopefully we at least answer one of those questions. That was a lot of questions, but we'll try to do our best. As Renata said, my name is Will Doran. I'm the International Enrollment Counselor here at Maryville College in Tennessee. And we're joined.
Hello, my name is Joy. I'm happy to be here. I'm the Assistant Director of International Recruitment at Center College in Kentucky, where KFC started.
It's true. And we all love some KFC. And we both just want to emphasize, if anybody has any questions, please just, type it in the chat box or shout it out. We'd rather have a conversation kind of with you as opposed to just talk at you. So if anything doesn't make any sense or we need to elaborate on something, just let us know. We're happy to deviate. But I guess let's get started, right?
Sounds good. Thank you, Will. So to start us off, and Renata alluded to this earlier about the different types of institutions in the U.S., so there are many different types of higher education institutions in the United States. There are public universities, there are private universities, there are Ivy League schools. So there are more than 4,000 institutions to choose from. So a lot of options for students, right? And among them, among those 4,000 colleges and universities, there are about 228 liberal arts colleges and liberal arts institutions like ours here today. And liberal arts institutions make up about 15% of all colleges and universities in the United States. So it's a significant portion if you ask.
Very well said, Joy. And I'd just like to add briefly on that, on the map on the right, kind of the outline of where liberal arts colleges are. We're, of course, going to look at what is a liberal arts college and kind of what makes a liberal arts college a liberal arts college. But this is a nice kind of blueprint of just seeing the kind of diversity of the region and the culture of America as well. So you're going to have kind of the common denominator of what a liberal arts college is, but each state is different, right? And each state has its own flavor, its own unique characteristics. And so if you want a liberal arts degree in a California setting, you can find that. Or if you want a liberal arts college degree in New York, you can find that as well. So it still has the basic components with its own identity. So just something to kind of think about, and we'll talk more about that later. So yeah, maybe we can kind of open this up, if you know, put this in a chat box or shout it out. But what are the stereotypes of a liberal arts college for you? What have you heard about the liberal arts colleges? And this is open to everybody, including Renata and Ep. Love them.
I know that some of my students think that you can study only arts at liberal arts colleges.
Okay. That's a great one. Yes. Okay. You can only study the arts. Makes sense, right? It is a liberal arts in the name. Let's see. Okay, so EducationUSA Latvia said no quality STEM programs. Okay, also very, very interesting. Let's maybe ask one more kind of, Renata, you hit the nail on the head, but how about true or false? Liberal arts colleges, you can only study, fine arts, right? Painting, for example. Is that true? Maybe false? And we can answer it for you, kind of rhetorical, right? That's not true, right? You can study really anything to understand everything. It's kind of one of the common mottos of a liberal arts college. So not just fine arts, many, many different things.
Yeah, so like Will said, there's a lot of there are some misconceptions about what a liberal arts college is and what you can actually study there. And typically we just shorten the liberal arts colleges to liberal arts. And in fact, it's actually liberal arts and sciences college. So there's always science that's sort of hidden in the background that's shortened. So to make it easier for, saying it, we just say liberal arts colleges. But to sort of go back on the history of liberal arts colleges, the word liberal comes from a Latin word libre, which means freedom and openness. So liberal arts institutions like Maryville, like Center, we embrace this where students have the freedom to pursue various areas of studies and discipline. So liberal arts here is not, it doesn't mean only visual arts or performing arts. Visual arts here actually means areas of study or mastery. And it always includes science, like I said. So you can actually study STEM programs as well. We just abbreviated to call it liberal arts. And you'll get to see in a little bit what you are able to study at liberal arts colleges. And liberal arts colleges have been a long tradition here in the United States. So the first liberal arts college in the United States is actually Harvard University. Everybody knows Harvard, but Harvard is the first liberal arts college in the United States. And the goal of a liberal arts education is to prepare citizens to be well equipped for a good life and enable them with skills and expertise in more than one area of studies so that they can be successful in multiple areas, multiple jobs, multiple professions.
Yeah, very well said, Joy. So I think that's kind of a nice background introduction to the liberal arts. Here we have a quote, and this might be a little wonky, right? Maybe a little kind of banal even, but I think it does kind of hit home at what you really get when you get a liberal arts degree. So a liberal arts college is a type of higher ed institution whose curriculum is designed to promote learning across multiple disciplines, engage in experiential learning, and achieve outcomes that are essential for work, citizenship, and life. And kind of as Joy hit on, I really think that middle word of the last three, the citizenship, is key, because you're not just getting an academic degree, you're really being prepared to lead, whether that's in a profession, in the community, right? National, international. It really focuses on making you the best person possible, and to kind of carry that on and help others in the biggest possible way, I guess. So again, a very basic definition, but just to kind of hit home what a liberal arts college is or curriculum is. Excellent. All right. We do have a few of these, so just a little warning what to expect. So this slide might be the most substantial one, kind of the biggest breakdown of what a liberal arts college actually is. And I guess I'll cover a couple of these, and Joy, I'll let you tackle the rest. But these are all going to be the basic components that really most liberal arts colleges have in common. So kind of we all have these parts that make up a whole liberal arts campus, community, and curriculum. And I'll start with the first one, the small campus and class size. This is really key, and this is arguably one of the biggest benefits of a liberal arts college, is that you do have a small campus. And the average numbers, of course, they fluctuate, but usually around 1,500 students, more or less. Joy, correct me if I'm wrong, but Center is around there as well. We're a little under 1,500 Maryville, but you're really looking at, between 1,000, 3,000 students. And with that, you get a really pristine campus, and we're going to look at those later, but you get small class sizes. And that's something that really can't go unnoticed, because it's such a benefit of you knowing all your colleagues, knowing your other students, and then knowing your faculty. And I can even jump to that third box on the right. The connection to faculty is huge. So I always tell students, at a liberal arts college, you're not just a name on a roster. You're not just some student ID number. You are you, right? And your professor knows that. And your professor knows what you're good at, what you need to work more at, what you love, what you don't love. And that's really personable and intimate. And that goes a long way. After 4 years, you don't just have a professor, you have a connection, you have an actual relationship. And that is unique, because not all universities have that kind of access. And then the experiential learning is also key. As I mentioned, here at a liberal arts college, you're really trying to be prepared for life, right? Not just kind of academic, but the practical part of that. Sadly, academic and theory and practical and real world are not always the same. So it really is trying to balance that out, right? It's a perfect marriage of the theory and the real. And that's where you get the experiential learning. That's where you get the internships, the jobs, the research, the study abroad, all things that kind of get you outside the classroom in a learning setting, a learning environment.
And Will has covered quite a number of core elements of what a liberal arts college is, and I want to fill in on the rest here as well. So we'll talk about connection to faculty, how your professors are not just your professors in class, but they become like your family members. The 4 years you're here in college, they become lifelong friends, and they do not only teach you in class, but they'll eat together with you in dining halls, where you can have really intellectual conversation about what you're learning in class, or what are some of the research opportunities that are available. And that sort of ties into liberal arts colleges' focus on undergraduate education. So most liberal arts colleges will only offer a bachelor's degree, meaning there is a lot more focus on teaching rather than doing a lot of research where you would see in public universities. So what that means is students will have a personalized advising that is tailored towards what they're interested in, what they need in terms of career development. So you get a lot of this in a small classroom setting, as well as a personalized advising office hours, where students can go to their faculty members' office hours and literally talk about anything. I can't tell you how much valuable these conversations are that happens outside of classrooms, and faculty members are very open at liberal arts colleges when it comes to interacting with their students. That also, a lot of these experiential learning, small communities, focus on undergraduate teaching, a lot of these sort of culminated into our emphasis on the value of critical thinking, problem solving, and the ability to adapt, because liberal arts college experience allows students to become more adaptable thinkers, to think critically about the issues and challenges we face today in this fast-changing world. And these are very important skills that are highly valued by not just your future employers, but these are the same skills that are needed to needed to resolve the challenges of tomorrow. So in liberal arts colleges, we're not preparing students to be able to do the jobs of today, but we're preparing students to be able to take on the challenges of the future. So with all that being said, the other really great part about going to a liberal arts college is the college community. So you heard from Will that a lot of the small liberal arts colleges have anywhere between 1,000 to 3,000 students. If you think about those numbers, they're not that large, right? So with smaller communities, you get a lot of interaction with the community members, not just within your college community, but with the surrounding communities as well. So for example, Center is in a small town called Danville. Center's population make up about 10% of the town's population. So there's a lot of collaboration between the college community as well as the town's community. So there's a lot of interaction, a lot of friendly neighbors, you could say. But most liberal arts colleges are residential as well. So what that means is students will live on campus all 4 years. Housing is provided for most schools. So what that means is you'll form a residential community within your school. So you'll not just be going to classes with the people around you, but you're actively living and having fun together.
Very well said, Joy. And yeah, I mean, there's always something going on campus every night, same at Center and Maryville College, whether that's a movie night or some dance party or Harry Potter club getting together. There's always something unique and fun going on. So yeah, it's very social, very active, and that definitely is a benefit as well, because you have a community. You don't feel isolated like you might in some larger institution. You're cared about in a liberal arts community. So that really does go a long way. Okay, I think we're doing really good. If there's any questions, just let us know. But yeah, this is also just kind of focusing on what you get at a liberal arts college. So you have the broad education, and this can kind of tie into the flexibility, the adaptability. You can learn really what you want to learn, what you're interested in. And if you don't like that, you don't have to touch it again, right? So there is kind of a nice trial and error. We were talking about this before, but it's hard to know what somebody wants to do with their life when they're 17 or 16 or 18 or 30, like some of us are. And so it's hard to dedicate 4 years of your life to one thing. The benefit here at a liberal arts college is that you can kind of test the waters, right? You can kind of see, what do I like? What do I really see myself doing long term or kind of after college? And a liberal arts college, you have that flexibility to see that. And that's not just to say that you only study kind of the general classes. You still have your major. You still have the thing that you really are passionate about or interested in. But this kind of allows you to make sure that it really is something you want to pursue and something that you want to actually commit to. And whenever you kind of combine these two, the general eds and the specialization, you're really set for whatever you want to do. And that can take you to any job, any career, any place. But you kind of understood the basic components of an education, and then also the specialization of that subject, of that program of study. So we'll look a little bit more into this later, but just you have flexibility, adaptability, kind of matched with your interests and your passions. So.
And we'll cover most of what it's like to study at a liberal arts institution. And I think most of these have been already covered, but I just want to go over the main point, which is I think at liberal arts colleges, rather than just focusing on one area of studies, there is liberal arts colleges will often require a general education curriculum to encourage students to develop expertise and knowledge base in more than one discipline. So that's where you would see like taking classes in humanities, science, and various other areas, so that students are able to test the waters, like Will said, and it also helps students develop a wide breadth of subject areas and disciplines, so that they get a fuller view of whatever they want to go into in the future, whether it's into the STEM field or humanities. The general education requirements at liberal arts colleges often focus on multi and interdisciplinary experiences that hone their students' existing strength while exposing them to a rich array of knowledge and new areas of studies as well as skills. And here we said, when at liberal arts colleges, you have the flexibility, but you also have the time. So oftentimes at liberal arts colleges, students won't declare a major until the end of their second year. And it's usually a common thing among liberal arts colleges where they give you the flexibility as well as the time to help you decide what you actually are interested in and what you're passionate about. So you have that time and flexibility, but once you declare your major, 30% or more of your courses will become your major classes. Couple that with practical experiences where you'll do internships or research in your chosen field. So there's a lot of academic support and resources for students to develop their expertise once they have decided. But even before they have decided on a major, while you're in the process of testing out different disciplines, you'll be exposed to a number of resources and advising, and you'll never be alone in this endeavor.
Very well said, Joy. Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on that, we have the curriculum cake, and I'm not sure if people have seen this before, but just kind of represents what really your 4 years might look like at a liberal arts college. And I always tell students kind of the magic number is 120. I think that's true for most places, but 120 credits is kind of what you're looking at to graduate. So keep that in mind with this curriculum cake. But you might have 50, 51 credit hours of the general education classes, what Georgia was talking about, kind of the liberal arts curriculum. This is also kind of the putting your foot in the door, right? Testing the water, seeing what you like, what you don't like. And then again, you have your major, you have what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, what you might end up doing for your capstone project or your thesis project. And I do think that's also something that we can touch on, Joy. At liberal arts colleges, you have kind of the freedom for your senior project, for it not just to be a paper. And that's fine if you want to do a 100-page thesis or however many word thesis. But we have a lot of students who, if you're a fine arts major, you'll make a short film. We had a student who wrote a graphic novel for her capstone project. So you don't always get this at public institutions or other institutions. At least at liberal arts colleges, you kind of have that to really do something unique and also something fun for your final project. But so this is what would be covered under your major. You can have a minor if you want to, right? Kind of match the business with the fine arts. We want to make all of our parents happy, right? Have something long-term. Experiential education, as we mentioned before, kind of getting that real world, learning and kind of practicality. And then the extracurriculars, the campus involvement, as we mentioned, it's a very collegiate, community-based 4 years experience. So that really, that goes a long way with both making friends, but also connections and networking. And, if a friend gets a job at some company, well, you're friends with that person. So then maybe they can get you in to that company. So you really have kind of long-term benefits from all angles of a liberal arts curriculum. So I hope that makes sense. Joy, anything else that I should add on this or that you'd like to add?
I think you said it perfectly. And the one thing that I'll add is because liberal arts colleges are small and there's a lot more focus on students' development and their well-being, there are a lot of resources that are put behind the student experience. So for example, I think we'll touch on the fact about, doing research on campus. At larger universities, they'll do a lot of research, but those research opportunities are often given to graduate students as opposed to undergraduate students. But at liberal arts colleges, when there are research opportunities, they go to undergraduate students, and research and internships are a major part of a lot of liberal arts colleges, not just academic requirement, but it is usually and very highly encouraged pursuit for students, because we want students to be able to have that real world experience, and there are funding and resources for students to be able to do those things during the summers and during the regular semesters. So that's what I will add.
Very good. All right.
All right. This is usually something that's more illuminating when it's like a vlog on YouTube, where you'll see college students talking about a day in the life of, a college student at, so-and-so university. So I just want to get explain a snapshot of what a day in the life of a student would look like at a liberal arts college. So like I said, most liberal arts colleges are residential, so everything is sort of within walking distance for the most part. So oftentimes you'll have breakfast in the dining hall. There will be a couple of different options on campus depending on what options are available. You'll often eat with your friends in the dining hall. So that's actually a really fun part. And then you'll go to your class. So here we have public relations class. And then because in a liberal arts college, you're not bound by what you major in. You can be a business management major, but you can still take art classes. So your first class could be your major class, but your second class could be something like Introduction to Glass Blowing. So if you don't know what glass blowing is, that's where you make glass pieces, right? You blow glass and all of that. So you can take classes like that, and then you would go off to lunch and do homework in between your classes. And here you will often eat with your friends in the dining hall again. And that's a really fun part because you get to see different people and different friends throughout the day. And it's really exciting when you get to see your friends on campus. And then, of course, later in the afternoon, you'll have more classes. So here we had Introduction to Beer Making. Maryville does a great job with that class. Will, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that class or...
Well, I'll just say that Giorgio and I, so Introduction to Glass Blowing is a real class that Center College offers. And that is one that is a very unique and very famous program. And just we do have a good beer making class here at Maryville College that counts towards a chemistry class. And as I mentioned, in order to have a beer, you need a glass to drink it out of. So I guess the moral is you can apply to both of our colleges and contribute in some way to imbibing. But yes, these are two real classes that we both offer.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing, right? You have a lot of these unique types of classes that you can take in small liberal arts colleges. But the day is not done, right? The day is not all about classes and all of that. In the afternoon, you can go to your faculty members' office hours where you can talk about your senior thesis, or if you are gearing up to apply for an internship or do a research opportunity during the summer, that's where you would talk to your advisor or your faculty member, or if you just simply want to talk about your day, your professors will listen to you. So there is that. And then later in the afternoon, most liberal arts colleges, we don't hold classes in the evening. So by like 4 p.m., you're out of the class. You still have the rest of the day to do a lot of fun things. So for example, you can go to club meetings or you can do Model UN. If you are a student athlete, you will go to your sports practice because there are no more classes after 4. And then the rest of the day is just full of, fun things like going to dinner with your friends in the dining hall again, or somewhere else off campus. And sometimes you'll have like intramural games. And I know both Will and I are both soccer fans, or I should say football fans, because football is mostly used everywhere else except the United States. But you can play in intramural football, where you play essentially football in a recreational competitive league at school. And, the rest of the day can be filled with studying, hanging out with friends. So your day, your 24-hour, obviously you have to sleep, you have to go to classes, but your 24-hour is filled with a lot of different exciting things that you can do on campus.
Very well said, Joy. Yeah, there's a lot going on. So you're never bored, I guess is the point here. Just a few kind of brief statistics, I guess, and really we can hone in on that first one because I think it is really interesting. But 9 out of 10 post-secondary institutions for eventual PhDs come from the liberal arts, right? So I know we've talked a lot about the real world and kind of the liberal arts curriculum prepares you for work. But if you do want to pursue academia and you do want to go on to do a master's or a PhD or law school or medical school, liberal arts curriculum, the liberal arts degree really looks good and prepares you for that as well. So it's not just about getting the career, it's also a lot of foundational academic preparation too. So yeah, I think some other stuff we can skip over, but there's a lot of good statistics out there that support a liberal arts degree is the point here. Yeah, and it would be a disservice to some of these beautiful campuses if we did not look at them. And that is, I mean, Joy, I think you'd agree that this is pretty universal. Liberal arts colleges are beautiful, and they really are nice to look at. They're well maintained. They're well kept. From a manicurial perspective. So beautiful buildings, beautiful parks, a lot of greenery. A lot of our campuses are, kind of in nature, kind of isolated within nature. So let's just kind of briefly look at some of these. Here's Pomona College out in California, right? I mean, I know that we're not promoting this, but you could see in myself, I could say, wow, I could spend 4 years there. That's not a bad place to be. So really beautiful, very quaint.
And of course, here we have Center College. And if you love nature, even though we're in a small town, we are close to a lot of scenic hiking spots around Kentucky. The campus itself is full of very grassy fields, a lot of trees. We're actually named for 7 years in a row Tree Campus of the United States because we have a lot of trees. So if you are a big nature lover, if you love trees, there is a website where you can actually go and find out what trees are present on campus and the type of trees they are. So it's really cool. But the point here is there's a lot of outdoor space, a lot of great facilities on campus that students can utilize.
And I can confirm that as a Kentuckian myself, Center College is a beautiful campus. So well said, Joy. Here's Maryville College, also known for our outdoors. We actually have a program where every weekend you go into the Smoky Mountains, which is a national park. And eventually you can even get credit for that. So you can actually kind of take classes in the mountains, whether that's kind of a romantic riding class or a ropes course or, first aid class. But we definitely, just like Center College, really put an emphasis on getting outside, getting into nature, kind of the therapy, the beauty, the education that goes with that. So, yeah, I'll leave that there. We have Amherst College as well, very famous, very prestigious school up in Massachusetts. So you're kind of seeing, hopefully the point is that, any liberal arts college that you apply to or where you end up going, it's going to be a beautiful place. So that's always nice. Right. Georgia, I guess I can touch on the alumni briefly. We just wanted to kind of highlight that the diversity of alumni from liberal arts colleges, right? It's not just one profession or kind of a predominance of this job or this career. If you see some of these famous alumni, you see everything from politicians, diplomats, actors, comedians, business owners, presidents of universities, founders, innovators. It really is a whole swath of unique, talented, diverse individuals. So, and of course, this is just less than a dozen people. There's so many more obviously out there, but some really good schools, some really good people, and yeah, a lot of, and that's great too. Again, for connections, for alumni networks. I mean, Center College, Maryville College have really invested alumni networks that help you as a student to then kind of get jobs or kind of get placed somewhere after you graduate. So definitely a benefit as well. I can touch on this briefly, and I say this can go either way because we know some politicians are not so good, but 55% of the world leaders have a liberal arts degree, right? So again, this kind of going back to what I said earlier about leadership, right? Kind of citizenship, leading by example. A lot of politicians, if political science or international relations is something that interests you, this is a really good degree to have to kind of get you into that life of service, right? Dedicated service.
And I know we've been talking a lot about, what's unique about liberal arts colleges. And on this slide, you'll see a couple of, unique programs that we have on our campuses. And I can briefly talk about some of the things that are present in many liberal arts colleges. Because of our strong emphasis on experiential learning, and research and internships are a must for a lot of our institutions. Study abroad, which is if you know about study abroad or exchanges, those are highly encouraged as well. So for example, at Center, we are known for our study abroad programs, and we send students all over the world where they take very unique classes such as scuba diving in South Pacific to learn about marine biology, or a lot of various different things. And these programs exist because we want our students to be able to experiment and experience not just the things that are present on campus, but we want them to become global citizens. So there is a strong emphasis on those types of programs. And the question that we get asked most often is, okay, we have all these amazing things that we can offer, but how do we make it affordable for the students? And this is a very important question, not just for the students, but for their families as well. So I like to take a couple of minutes to talk about scholarship and funding opportunities at liberal arts colleges. So scholarships and financial aid, they are very common in the United States for international students. Liberal arts colleges are friendly when it comes to helping students afford to go here. So the thing that students need to be aware is there is a difference between need-aware school versus need-blind school, meaning liberal arts colleges, need-aware schools will take into consideration how much the students are able to invest in their education. Sometimes their admission decision will also be affected by how much the student is able to contribute, because for us, we would love to fund all capable and smart, intelligent international students, but our limited financial resources are also limited. So we have to be good stewards of our resources. So that is not to say that we do not award financial aid or scholarships to international students. There are, in fact, a lot of resources for students at liberal arts colleges. So that's need-aware. Need-aware is where we take into consideration whether or not we can meet the financial needs of the students. Whereas need-blind schools, they may be able to offer you admission regardless of how much students are able to invest in their education. But it will be up to the students to be able to find that funding for themselves to attend the institution. So oftentimes students will not be aware of these differences, and it's important for the students to be asking these questions when they talk to the enrollment counselors or admission counselors from the schools that they're applying to. And that is generally a good tip for students when applying for U.S. universities and colleges, not just at liberal arts colleges, but also at larger universities. At liberal arts colleges, we do a combination of merit scholarships. So that could be in the form of a grant. A grant is something that you don't have to pay back. Some students will also be awarded a work study, meaning you'll be able to work on campus. International students are only allowed to work 20 hours a week per U.S. immigration laws, labor laws, and they're only allowed to work on campus. So if a work study is part of your financial aid package, you will be guaranteed the opportunity to work that many hours up to the amount that you're awarded. Sometimes some colleges will also will give out loans to international students. At Center, we don't do loans. We only do grants and work studies and financial aid, but it's a little different for every school. The other thing to pay attention to is most bachelor's degree in the United States is a 4-year degree, so you'll be here for 4 years. You need to make sure that if you're awarded a scholarship and a financial aid package, you are awarded for all 4 years versus 1 year. These are some of the things that you need to pay attention to. So that's another thing. When you're applying for financial aid and scholarships, some schools will require additional forms. So schools will require something called the CSS profile online that ask you a couple of questions about your ability to pay for college and all of that. Schools will take that into consideration when considering students for admission. But every school will have its own set of requirements. So that's something that you need to check on either the school's website or talk to the admission counselor or the admission officer. Here, the last two bullet points, it says very limited and competitive. Like I said before, if we have the funding resources and capabilities, we would love to fund and give out scholarships to everybody, right? And we do our best to give those scholarships and financial aid. They can be limited. Students may be expected to afford a certain level of financial resources to be able to go to college in the United States in general. But even though they may be limited and competitive, they are out there. There are financial resources and scholarships for international students, and it just takes a little bit of research and a lot of emails asking questions. So don't hesitate to apply for these things.
Very well said, Joy. And I know we're kind of getting towards the end of our presentation, so just a little summary, right? Kind of some final points to take home with us. But the benefits, right? And there are many, right? These are just 6, but you really are prepared for work, right? Whether that's your first job outside of college or for your long-term career. You get introduced to all types of career choices, and even Center College and Maryville College, right? We have career fairs often, right? If not even every semester, to kind of get you research opportunities, internship opportunities, and even as a freshman, you're able to go to these. You're encouraged to go to these to kind of build up that relationship with an employer over 4 years, and then you graduate and you have a job waiting for you, right? So you really have a stepping stone to other career choices as well. If you do get out and you think that this one job or one career is right for you, and then you realize it's not, you still have the foundational knowledge and kind of the basic components of success that you can translate or transfer over to a different career. So it's very marketable.
I have nothing to add. I think
okay.
you said.
Well, then we're good. All right. Yeah. So anyways, there's a lot of benefits is the long story short to a liberal arts degree. And do we want to touch on this, Joy, a little bit, kind of the differences, liberal arts versus public universities?
We can touch on it very briefly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can start us off. And today, I think you have heard our spiel about what a liberal arts college is and what it's like to study here. But here's a little bit of a comparison. Obviously, when you compare small liberal arts colleges to larger universities, I think the differences are very visible, right? For liberal arts colleges, we have a focus on well-rounded education that's personalized to you. In larger universities, you'll be in larger classes with hundreds of people, where you may be taught by teaching assistants, graduate students. At smaller liberal arts colleges, most instructors will have their PhDs. There are very few instructors without a PhD. So there's that, because we emphasize a lot on undergraduate education. There's a lot more emphasis on classroom discussion. So on average, our class sizes are anywhere between 15 to 30 in a class. So there's a lot of opportunities for class discussions there. Whereas in larger universities, most of these are lecture-based. So you'll listen to a professor or a teaching assistant just teaching you, lecturing you throughout the entire class session. And that is not the same at liberal arts colleges.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's really nothing else for me to add. I mean, I would say the kind of more Hollywoodized version that you see in movies is probably more, more correct or more similar to the large universities, right? If you are looking for that, the big parties, the fraternity life, and I know that Maryville College and Center both have fraternities and Greek life, but that's a little bit more of the kind of larger universities, the state schools. So it's a little different, from what you see in Ryan Reynolds movies or kind of National Lampoon movies. So just kind of keep that in mind, I guess. But I know we're really pushing it for time, so I do apologize. Let's kind of power through very, very quickly just where I work. I know we've talked about it already. Maryville College here in the Smoky Mountains National Park, which is one of the most visited national parks in America. 1,200 students, 70 academic programs. As I mentioned earlier, one of our kind of mottos is that you can study anything to understand everything. And that's pretty consistent for liberal arts colleges as a whole. International students, we try to do our best and help out with merit scholarships. There are full tuition scholarships as well. And not that, rankings mean anything, but we were ranked 5th in terms of best kind of liberal arts college in the South. So, something that I guess we can use since it was a good ranking, not a bad ranking. But yeah, that's a little bit about Maryville. Oh, and also Dolly Parton is from here. And even one of our international students from Uzbekistan saw Dolly Parton last semester. So she's in the area, she's active, and we all love Dolly Parton. So I'll let Joy close out.
Thank you, Will. I'm very happy to share a little bit about Center College and what it's like to study here. I am a proud Center College alumnus, and I was a former international student in the US. So a lot of these are very personal to me. So to start us off, Center is a small private liberal arts institution in Kentucky. And earlier I said we're located in Kentucky in a small town called Danville. It's a very friendly environment for international students. I loved my time here. Well, now I work here, so I live in Danville. But the thing about Center is we are committed to providing our students with the premier education, experiential learning opportunities that prepare students for meaningful careers of tomorrow, today and tomorrow, and global experiences in a supportive and inclusive community. And our commitments are highlighted by various different rankings. There are three things that we are committed to do for our students. So they're called the Center commitment. What they are is if a student wants to do a mentor research or an internship, they should be able to do that. If they want to study abroad or study away, they should have that opportunity at least once. Most students will certainly do it more than once. And then the third and the final commitment we make to all of our students is that they will graduate. They'll be able to do all these wonderful, amazing things and graduate on time within 4 years, because 4-year graduation is extremely important for us as well as for the students. So those are the three things that we guarantee. And we have a pretty vibrant international student community coming to us from all over the world. And in terms of funding, we provide generous merit scholarships up to $30,000 a year to accomplished students and some financial aid. We also have fully funded scholarships, so we pay everything for the students through our program program like the Lincoln Scholars Program and the Brown Fellows Program, they are cohort-based systems. So if you're selected to be one of the 10 students in each of those programs every year, we will take care of all the cost of attendance for you. That being said, I know we're pressed on time, so I want to thank you for your time today, and I'm very excited to potentially work with all of you on your college application journey in the future.
That was great. And also, I mean, we want to open it up to questions. Any students that have questions about anything about liberal arts, our schools, just life in America, please let us know. And also, not to put more, weight on Renata, Epp, or Ledla, but Education USA is a great resource. So they're there to help, and they're all wonderful people and know a lot. So they're super good connections to have.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate and type them into the chat box, or just unmute yourself and you may ask your questions. Actually, I have one question that I get sometimes from my students. So in terms of admission process, are there any specific things that a student should know when applying to liberal arts colleges? Or the process is quite the same as it would be with any other institution?
Renata, that's a great question, and I can start us off. So when international students apply to U.S. institution, like any U.S. institution, there are certain core elements of the admission process that every school are looking for. For international students, it's the Common App, so the admission application itself, so the essays, they're common across all. I think we're Common App school. I think Maryville is as well, but they will require an admission essay. And the other thing that they will look for is proof of English proficiency if they're coming from a country where English is not the official language. So those are the two main things that all colleges will look for. But to answer your question about are there any differences when it comes to liberal arts schools application? And every school is going to be a little different, but for the most part, the things that I said earlier will be the things that are required, with additional things like we also look at extracurricular activities and involvement from students, what they have done in the past. We take a more holistic approach at reviewing applications, so it's not just test scores. Some schools will still require standardized test scores like the SATs. Most schools are going test optional. Center colleges test optional for the last 2-3 years, and we're test optional for another 2 years. Is Maryville also test optional, Will?
We are, yes.
So some schools will require those standardized tests, but for the most part, we're going test optional because we know that better test takers will, perform a little better than other students, but we want to take a holistic approach at reviewing students' applications. So for us at liberal arts colleges, we put a lot more emphasis on other areas of the application, such as the essay, extracurricular activities, and so on. Will, did I miss anything, or is there anything you want to add?
I would just add, I mean, if you do end up applying to Maryville College, I would even beg you not to submit your test scores. Just more work for us, and I try to avoid those at all costs. So yeah, you're definitely not judged for how you did on one Saturday morning, for a 4-hour ABCD answer test. There are much better ways to judge somebody's character application. But yeah, holistic, I think, is the key word there. George.
Yeah, you see, this is the problem for us Education USA advisors, because when we see that an institution is test optional, so the students usually ask us, so what should I do? Should I take the test or no? Should I report the results or no? And when I talk to institutions representatives like you, so some of them tell, yes, we are test optional, but we would like to see the results. And if you would send them to us, we would be happy to consider them and to check them and everything else. But some of them say, like you will, we don't need it, don't send it to us. And but on the internet, on the website, there is, you can't know what is the, this approach within the institution. You see only this word optional, but what it really means, it's sometimes really confusing and difficult for students to understand. But should I take the test or no? And so our students are facing this problem actually.
Sorry, go ahead, Will.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think it's one of those things where if you have taken the test and you scored well, like it can't hurt you to submit it, right? It only kind of boosts your application. Or if maybe one other part of your application is lacking or is not really, you think it's a little below the standard, the average, then it can kind of supplement your GPA, let's say, or something. But honestly, Renata, like I just in full transparency, I very rarely look at test scores. I mean, I think an essay is a much better way to make a decision. Your GPA from high school, your extracurricular activities, your interests, right? Your demonstrated interests, which Georgia and I could come back and do a whole presentation on holistic review and what that means. But make sure, the school that you really want to go to, email the Joy or the Will equivalent, right? I mean, for me, that is almost a make or break. You could have really poor grades almost, but if you're in communication with me and you've set up a Zoom meeting or been corresponding, I'm much more likely to admit you just because we have a relationship. So that really goes into it as well. But Joy, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I think you said it perfectly. I think keeping in communication with the admission officer help us get some context about what the student's situation is. Even if they have bad test scores, on the Common App, for example, there's a section that allows you to explain, like, okay, what happened there. We take those into consideration, and I can't speak for all schools, but most liberal arts colleges, most admission counselors that I know from liberal arts colleges, they are open to finding out what students are able to do. We're looking for consistency in academic performance as opposed to one single test scores. So for example, in our context at Center, when we say test optional, in the back end, if a student chooses to submit a test score, great, we'll consider it. If it's a bad score, we have something called a do no harm policy. If a test score is not great, we won't take that into consideration, because when we say we're test optional, we are truly test optional, and we want to make sure that we'll have helping the students as opposed to penalizing them. So that's at Center. I can't speak for every liberal arts colleges, but all of the admission counselors that I know, they are looking for ways to help the students. And I guess a practical tip would be, like Will said, reach out to the admission counselor. And Renata, I know that means reaching out to like hundreds of us. That may not be so practical, but oftentimes I think these types of interaction between EducationUSA advisors and between the students and the admission counselors themselves, they can be helpful in finding out whether a school, when they say they're test optional, whether they're trying to help the students or penalize them. So these conversations are important, and I think this is a great way to find out the answers.
Yeah, thank you. This is very true, and I always suggest to students that they would contact the institution and would ask these questions, because every institution is very, very different. So great, thank you, Will and Joy, for today's wonderful presentation. Unfortunately, I see that many of our students were not able to join us live, but they will see the recording for sure. So we will share your contacts with our students. So let's keep in touch. And thank you for today's wonderful presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I hope it was helpful, informative.